My name is Seb and I run a company called Artroom Brighton. So I provide art classes for children. There's no expectations. I make it very clear to the children that no one is judging them. A piece of art starts as a blank piece of paper. It's as fun for me to enable the children to build something up from scratch as it is for me to do it myself. I'm going to be showing you how you can get a blank piece of paper and kickstart your creativity with something really cool. So we've got a lovely blank white piece of paper in front of us, but you mustn't be scared. All we're going to do to begin with is start with a really simple controlled scribble. Okay, so I'm just going to take my pen for a walk across the page. Now this is something that the Surrealist painters did. Miro in particular, he is the artist that we're kind of loosely basing this on today, Juan Miro, Spanish Surrealist painter. And what he would do is he would do a controlled scribble where we take the pen across the page. So the next part of this is looking at your controlled scribble and seeing what you can see. And I'm going to use my marker pen to highlight so I've got a nice clear indication of where to cut. So I'm just trying to look for 5 shapes that are relatively big so that we can cut them out, and shapes which are as different to one another as possible. So have a good look in your controlled scribble and see what you can see. You are going to cut out the 5 shapes. Try and cut them out carefully, but if you're not very good at cutting out, it doesn't matter. I always find using the very back of the scissors the sharpest part. So if you can get the scissors in like that, so you're using the very back of them with little snips if you want to create a nice neat line, and if you can't, it's absolutely fine because these are shapes that you've created yourself and they are totally unique to you, so it doesn't matter. I find it easier to turn the piece of paper as opposed to turn the scissors. My scissors tend to face in one direction when I'm cutting. Okay, so blue tack. Very, very useful in the art room and in lots of areas. So we're going to stick these shapes down to the piece of paper. You're going to try and spread them out relatively evenly. I would say put 3 bits of blue tack per shape, and it's really just they don't wobble round when you're sponging paint on top. Okay, so I'm going to get my 5 shapes stuck down to my piece of paper using about 2 or 3 bits of blue tack per shape. Now I'm also going to take another piece of paper. I'm using A3 paper, but you could go bigger if you wanted to. Also going to cut a piece of A3 paper long ways. I'm going to get that stuck down as well. And that's going to separate my painting into top and bottom, basically. So you could call it wall and floor, you could call it sky and ground, you can call it whatever you want, but it's going to be 2 slightly different colours, so we see a separation between the top and the bottom. Okay, so I've chopped a common kitchen sponge in half to create a smaller kitchen sponge. We never use this side in the art class. This side is for scrubbing pots and pans, which we're not doing today. We are using this side of the sponge, which is the lovely soft absorbent side. So we're going to start off with some lighter tones, and we are going to gently put our sponge into the paint. And then we're going to come down and we're going to stipple on top of the templates. When you first go down with your sponge, what we mustn't do is go onto a template because some of the paint might come underneath. So what you must make sure you do is the first stipple that you do, you need to go away from the template and then move across to it. And that way we protect the edge of the template. And you're going to stipple the entire section with either light or dark, whatever you plan on doing first. Try and get a really nice variation of shades. You might want to keep your finger on one of the templates as you're doing it, and you're going to do that for the top part and then from the bottom part. When you do the bottom part, you take off the white piece of paper, you put it in the top, and then you use it because you've got the line, okay, and you get a nice straight line. You might want to give it a couple of minutes just for the paint to dry a little bit. I would recommend using acrylic paint for this. It does dry quickly. You're going to carefully remove the templates. Now, what you can do is you can use the blue tack to remove the other bits of blue tack that are on top of your piece of paper, because what's going to happen is as you remove the templates, there's going to be wet paint on top of them. It's going to get on your fingers, and then you put your fingers down and that's going to touch where the templates are. So use the blue tack to remove all the little bits of other blue tack that are still on your piece of paper, and that way we get a nice clean picture. Okay, you've got some really interesting shapes, you've got some colour down there, and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, right, what can I see? Okay, so for example, I can see a little mouth here, okay, so this might become like a little fish perhaps. This looks a little bit like a bird, so I might add a little head and a beak to that. This one here, not too sure yet. Okay, we've got another interesting creature here coming down with perhaps a tail, and I'm going to just, with no pressure at all, I'm just going to turn these blank white shapes into creatures just by adding heads, eyes, tails, ears, whatever you fancy adding. So it's probably good to have a couple of different size paintbrushes. We want this to have a nice kind of painterly effect, which is why I don't want anyone to worry too much about different colours mixing with other different colours. We're going to keep coming back to the white, and we're going to try and press as lightly as we can with our brush. So for example, this first fish creature, I want it to be a nice pinky colour. So I'm going to work with the white and the pink, and I'm going to press very, very lightly, and I'm going to allow the pink to kind of blend into the white so I get different shades of one colour. Try and blend it a little bit, and the better blends come by pressing very, very lightly with the brush, almost kind of massaging the hairs of the brush on top of the wet paint and just blending it very, very slightly. You can always come back to the white paint. If you go too dark, you can come very, very lightly back on top. And the idea is, guys, I think with these creatures is to make them a little bit three-dimensional. We can do that by adding white paint and pressing very, very lightly, and that way we get a lot of different blends and tones going on. So, painting's done in terms of colour. I've filled it in. What's happened though, obviously, is the acrylic paint has gone over a lot of the marker pen lines, okay? So I am going to wait maybe 5 minutes or something like that, just give the paint a chance to dry. Just if you can see any little gloopy shiny bits of the paint, just give them a gentle brush over, and that will assist in the drying process, okay? So as soon as it's dry, we can come back to it and we can add the final touches, which are the little details. The final thing to do to our work of art today is to add the detail with the black. Now you could use a pen, or if you're brave enough, you could use some black acrylic with a bit of water mixed in with it. The beauty of using a paintbrush as opposed to a pen is we can alter the thickness of the brush. So if we press hard, we can get a nice fat line. If we press very, very lightly, we can get a very, very, very thin line. Any little bits that you feel that you come out of the shape, you can always just fill in with the black. Anything you fill in with the black is going to just look like it's part of the creature. It's going to look like a shadow. What you need to do here really is just add some extra details. So you might add extra claws. We want to make the eyes stand out, so give them a little black pupil. They look really good. You might want to add feathers. You might want to add scales. It really does depend on what creature you've created. But really, the world is your oyster. You can add anything you want and just really make these creatures come to life. Children or teenagers, anyone who gets involved is going to hopefully do it again, do another one another day, because it will start life as a scribble, and it's a really interesting way of starting a piece of art, and anyone can do a scribble. So if you'd like to find out more about this project and get involved in the Drug of Art competition, then the website will be appearing on your screen shortly, along with our socials.